Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. On the program today, we're going to be talking about a lifestyle that's out there going on right now. Someone who decided to go into the woods and learn to live off the land and to be of the land. Coming up will be National Geographic Channel's new show, The Legend of Mick, which depicts a man who checked out of the world 25 years ago to live in the wild and haul rainforest. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our guest, Mr. Mick Dodge. Mick, how are you today?
Fine. How are you, Daniel?
Doing well. So 25 years ago, you pulled off of the grid or society and decided to go and live into the woods and the wild. Tell us about that.
Well, I think like all of us, it started for me, actually. They say 25 years ago. It was 62 years ago when I was born, and I was just trying to find that middle path between the wild and the tame, between the forest and the city. And 25 years ago, around that time, I started going a lot deeper because I really tore my feet up wearing shoes, and life became boring with all the technologies and walls. And I just started stepping back out and following my feet, and it just turned into an adventure and kept going. And I wind up, doing a run, pretty much living on my feet, don't own the car and that kind of things, and just followed my feet and stepping in and out of the wild, and back into the tame, then back into the wild, and finding that middle path.
Now, this isn't, for survivalist or anything like that. You just decided this was something you wanted to do, and it's pretty much been enjoyable for you ever since, hasn't it?
Absolutely. I'm not a survivalist at all. Mm-hmm. To me, I'm a thrivalist. It's just we live in this incredible time, especially now. I'm in my, even more so in my 60s, is how to make sense of all the talk that what's wrong with our culture, all the talk of what's right, and then finding that middle footing of how to blend it all back in and live from a place of integrity with the earth. And one of the key ways I know when I'm doing that is when I have my grins. So the wild will eat you up, but modern life it'll eat you up too. And so it's how to get my grin, keep my grin strong, and all of those. And I focus on fitness and really exploring fitness. To fit the nest. Fitness is two words to me. Fit the nest.
Mm-hmm.
How do we fit this nest? How do we fit these times?
I like the phrase that you use, Earth Gym. Here you get people that pay for all these big expensive memberships to these health clubs, and you realize, you can get everything you'll ever need by doing, well, quite frankly, what you're doing.
Absolutely. That's one of the things I've found. I love gyms. I grew up powerlifting and martial arts and, a lot of inside training, and then I just started taking it further outside, and I found, the Earth Gym and how you can use simple tools like a stick and rope and a stone and create your own practice. In all those terrains, I train a lot of young guys come out trying to their parkour kind of movement going on in the city, and they bring that wall jumping and incredible stuff, and then bring it out here in the trees and forest and the rivers, and play.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's interesting when you step away from the modern world and all the chatter and noise that it brings along with it into the quietness of the trees and the land. Tell us, what have you been gaining from that? What is, I guess, tell us about natural laws that probably you didn't expect to learn about.
One of the key driving forces to me is that movement and habits are formed in habitat. And when I would go out of the walls, go out of the modern life, those habits were still in me. And getting down into the old growth forest, which are mature forests, I found my whole rhythm changed. I was no longer in time. time became two words to me: tie me up, and I landed more into a rhythm and a slowing down and a simpler. And those understandings really took on, in modern living, we get into this instant gratification, and we want to be satisfied instantly through our desires, and going out teaches you to slow down and get a grip on that. And I found in myself, in modern living, a lot of immaturity. And Paul Shepard, years ago, I read a book by him that one of the major problems we have today in the earth with the environment is immaturity. And so my journey was to go to the old growth, which is the older of maturity, and then start gaining some of those principles and learning how to make the effort, how to have the balls and the ovaries to really, land into that mature understanding. And then use what my mentors, my grandfathers, my fathers and uncles and mothers and grandmothers, what they had been passing on to me, and putting that back into my life now.
There was a time we decided to go out for a little hike in the woods, and it was interesting, as the children that were with us, they just kind of wrapped up their arms across their chest, pouted, and just walked through as though, well, what's so special about this? This is nothing but a bunch of trees. And it seems to be a pervasive attitude out there, especially among young people, that, there's nothing to be gained out there by this. And it really seems kind of sad how disconnected technology has made them away from listening to the whispering, for instance, of the trees and the sound of nature.
I think you're right. I think there's an element of that. And it's also the element of the people that they're walking with. If the people you're walking with are moving and playing and going, those kids will jump right into it. They'll follow suit. They'll follow what the pack or the herd is doing. And so, if it's just get out and one foot in front of the other and walk with boredom, I think a lot of kids kind of see that and go, well, we've been ignoring this for a long time. So we're still walking like we walk in the city. When you step out in the earth, is to move like an animal, move like a freedom and play. And the kids will see that, and they'll naturally flow into that. I've guided a lot of young ones up, and I find that those of us that just are moving and playing and dancing and talking to trees and hearing the wind blow, they jump right into it. They'll pull right out of that reaction and habit that you have. So I think you're right. I think technology has a lot with making, holding us back and creating habits that don't really release us into our full natural play. We're planimals. We're meant to play in life and create and do that as community and in a group. So it's the mentors that are walking them too, that they got to have their sense of play.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with you, but I didn't walk bored through the woods.
I bet you did.
In fact, it was a couple of teenagers, and they just decided that was going to be their experience regardless of what I was doing. So.
Right, yeah. It's really follow the child. That's where the word wild comes from, is we're born with this wild in us, this child, and learning to release that. Now we're older, so now it's like, how to release it in a mature way. My grandfather, he always said to me, there's two things you take to your grave, your word and your butt, so keep them both clean. And the way you know it's going to matter is you got a grin on your face.
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to, do you really directly live and sustain yourself on the land that you live in?
Uh-huh. I'm sorry, say that again.
I was saying, do you directly sustain yourself on the land that you live in?
Sustain myself, you mean?
Like eat, that sort of a thing?
Oh, yeah. I've learned to thrive in three basic terrains. There's how to walk through the city and survive there, how to walk through the open fenced land, which is I know a lot of organic growers, and then how to feed and clothe myself and live and build shelter in the gated wild. And so those three terrains, whichever one I'm in, I adapt and thrive in each one of those terrains. I think all of us know these three terrains for 10, 12,000 years. Civilization has been building the walls, and outside is the open fence lands, and now we have the gated wild. And learning how to train in those. My house, I got beachfront home, river home, mountain home, and I use stashes all over I stash bicycles and, other stuff, food. Sometimes I've been down in the city and picked up food there, and I'll stash it up in some trees and stumps and have that stashed for a while. So I found that mostly when they started looking at what I've been up to and stuff, there's this tendency to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and it's either or. And to me, it's this freedom to weave with all of Earth. To me, everything is natural. The city is natural. The destruction we do to the earth is natural, but it's also natural for us to stand up and go, this is immature behavior, and we need to change and rectify that. So, yeah.
Now, I know that when it comes to, I guess, the, what do I want to say, economy for you, that you pretty much use bartering. Isn't that true?
Absolutely. It's to me, it's to explore all those kind of habits.
Right.
So, like how to step out of a car, and then I got to how to step away from money, and how to barter, and there's they showed. I understand in one of the episodes the bartering that takes place, but it's a huge bartering network that is throughout the Northwest, and so there's organic growers, there's ways of bartering, trading, work. I share how to train with a stick and a rope and stone, and so there's a lot of trading and bartering goes on, and it's an incredible thing because it builds community really strong, and people that really get into bartering really want to know if the other person, is this a fair trade to them? Do they do that? And we tried to show that with one of the episodes. They were trying to capture that bartering.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you speak of the episodes, we're talking about the National Geographic television special they did on you, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many episodes were there?
They shot 12 episodes, and then I think Tuesday night at 10 o'clock on the National Geographic channel is when they show them. Mm-hmm. They show one of them. I don't have a television, so I don't.
Be kind of hard to plug that into a pine tree, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's certain ways, but I have, like right now, I'm out in the trees in the river, got a fire going, and I borrowed my friend's cell phone here to get on and talk. So there's ways to weed this stuff in. Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to just briefly get back to bartering again. It was interesting, about 2 years ago I did a segment about how the Soviet Union was dealing with economic collapse from someone who was from the Soviet Union. And one of the things they had spent years and years doing was bartering. And he said that he found it interesting that a lot of, if not most people in America, believe you cannot survive without money. And that's really interesting because money is nothing more than paper, But what has it been like, one, to pull away from a monetary system like we have here in America, and what are the people like that get involved in bartering? It sounds to me there's a lot more sincerity there. Not trying to say that one is better than the other, but just different, so to speak.
Yeah, the bartering comes down to your skills and the trading and honoring of the skills that you have mastered in life. Years ago, my sensei in Okinawa taught me that training, living is three things: knowledge, skill, and desire. And all of it in sensei, the word sensei is a Japanese word. Many translate to teacher, but it actually means 1 foot ahead. And all of us have 1 foot ahead in something. And so to be able to share that, what your skill is and what you've developed, and share it back in bartering is a very valuable community connector. And so it brings out that community connection. And bartering sometimes gets to be fun. I mean, it just becomes, kind of humorous, and it also helps you simplify and slow down and look at the relationship of the things that you're bartering for. Do you really need them? Or is this just some kind of greed, instant gratification thing you're trying to get a hold of? So it slows down the rhythm of that. Now, I think money's it's a good thing. The only other, if you don't have money, you can wind up people using guns and taking stuff by force. So it's like money's a form of bartering system. Then there's this deeper layer that I'm always eager to explore, and I know a lot of other people are too.
Mm-hmm. Well, you just said something that I think is very pertinent to this whole thing, is that you start deciding, what do I need? How important is this thing that I believe I want in my life? And money, I think, sometimes brings you too much of the stuff that you really don't need. Otherwise, we wouldn't have garages full of stuff that we never use.
Exactly. And I'm down in the city. I go in there sometimes, and I go into a thrift store to pick up old suitcases or purse, and because I use the leather out of those to craft some of my clothing. So sometimes I think it's bartering opens up also exploring our trash piles.
Mm-hmm.
And we have huge amounts of trash, and how to explore those and get creative with that. And it's just it's forming a relationship with your community and forming a relationship with the earth and the land. Mm-hmm. And especially, I really honor growers or people like Sunray Kelly. He's in the episodes. He builds cob houses and other kinds of structures, and he barters for apple cider. He's got an orchard there. There's just this whole network of and the other thing I see in bartering, you really wind up getting into organic growers are really strong with that, and so you get into the food aspect. And so everywhere I turn and look at bartering, I see healthy relationships being established, back again.
How about competition within that realm? Do you see a lot of that, or do you see really more cooperation?
More cooperation than competition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wouldn't even know where to put the word competition with that. It's cooperation and heart. I mean, people I find in the bartering have heart, and they treat you with heart and respect, and you treat them back with heart and respect.
Mm-hmm. I just had remembered that, having watched a special on the growth of the Oregon wine industry. And at the time, you had probably about a half a dozen, almost a dozen wineries back in the early 1970s. And some of these people with no winemaking knowledge whatsoever, just coming up here to take a shot. And they were talking about how often they could go to another vineyard and get things they needed, that would just be given or loaned to them. They were really helping each other out. And it also, going back even further, when you think of, for instance, the Harley Davidson and Indian motorcycles, they were very much the same way. And you think, that is a spirit in America where competition is healthy, but cooperation seems to be the spirit of how you do things. But then you hear, of course, maybe you don't, depending on if you catch the news from anybody who gives it to you, but what you mostly hear about today is how this person took over that and is dominating this, and And you kind of think to yourself, well, then where do I belong in the scheme of all of this?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's where I'm a dodge. When I get to that place, where do I belong in all the scheme of this? I start dodging.
How about spirituality? Do you feel that you've gained a certain spiritual, I guess, insight or aspect of life that maybe you couldn't gain from a city or living, more in a modern world, so to speak?
Yeah, the word spiritual, to me, to really make sense of it, is the word spirited. And so it's to be spirited, it's to tap into the earth and train with the earth and allow those natural elements and natural flow to guide me. Water is a good one. Water, when I look at stuff like the Tao and what they're talking about in China and the East, I find water, the yin and yang symbol water, is a great physical teacher of that. So I get in the river and use it as a treadmill and swim with it and stay in one spot and focus and meditate while I'm moving, to get that in there. And the water's so damn cold, I mean, that'll make you spirited in a second. It wakes you up. And then to get out and get a fire and, when we're burning wood or fire, you're releasing sunlight. And so as I dance with the fire and bring that in, I began to realize the word, the old ones, when they were writing down words, the word fire and desire sound the same. So as I learned to tend a fire, I can also learn to tend my desire. And as you put a coal on a fire, I put goals on my desire, and then give it wind and give it movement to be a fire tender, to nurture, my thinking and feelings. So yeah, it's I think spiritual words are great. They get hung up in dogma, and the way to break through that dogma and figure out what people are talking about when they're talking about spiritual to me is I use my feet, and I run with their thoughts. I run with their, it's like the word exercise. When yoga came on, I noticed yoga people were they do asanas, and they said it with such heart and spiritedness and spirited. And you ask them what asana meant, and they said, well, it means posture. Well, I want to feel that way about the word posture. What they're feeling about the word asana, I want to feel that about the word I use all the time, which is posture. And so it's using what inspires them with that word, and then using my own movement. And I found out, and I trained with the word posture. It's two words: post, like stand your military post, and then nurture, nature, rapture, and that led me into having a more spirited understanding of the words that I use.
Fascinating way. I know that in the wintertime it can be kind of harsh, but you seem to work with that as well, cooperate, if you will. How is that?
You just love it. You just say, teach me.
I try to picture running around barefoot, perhaps in the snow, which I've tried once, and I didn't get very far.
Well, welcome to the club. It's that's. I think people often go to me. They'll see me in mocks or mucklucks, and they say, "Well, I thought you barefoot." And well, I do, but it's cold out. I got to. And the mountain actually taught me this, because I made a vow never to wear shoes again, any kind of footwear, and walk any place I want to. And I got way up in the mountains, got around the glaciers, snow came in early, and I almost lost my toes. And I was, it was quite a process. I was holding my feet by the fire, trying to keep them warm. At the same time, I was cutting up my moose hide jacket to build myself a set of mucklucks that I stuck moss in order so I wouldn't lose my feet. And what that taught me is that I was still carrying domination in me. I had decided I'm not going to wear shoes anymore. I'm not going to, bother with the city. And the first thing I found out with the cold, the mountain taught me, is you got to learn to walk with integration. And we're not only a barefoot animal, we're also a tool-using animal. And so I began to craft my own footwear at that time and learned that, that I still had that domination in me, and I wanted to really land more into integration.
Mm-hmm. So you really, are pointing out something that I think is important, is that people sometimes decide this is a way they want to go with their lives. I'm going to live on the land, and I'm going to just be wholehearted, perhaps like Grizzly Adams. But there's a lot of work to that and a lot of knowledge that goes involved. But you don't take it to those extremes. It's, as if what you have done is just integrated yourself reasonably, adapted, if you will, to how you've come to live over the last quarter century, so to speak. What would you say to people who want to consider a lifestyle like this?
I think it's the word freedom. And freedom, one of its roots is non-interference. You have the right to do whatever you want to do so long as you don't use violence to get that done. And so to seek that freedom and to do it on your own way, to do it on your own exploration and journey. And I was raised with, my dad was a career Marine, my uncles were all career Marines, and the mantra that they spoke for so long was land of the free and home of the brave. And I find that's a good, strong mantra to live for, but we have this other one, land of the free and home of the caged. And so how do I find my way through those two is land of the free and the earth knows the way. Mm-hmm. And so it's about a balance of finding that out for yourself. Everybody has their own way of reaction. Just go slowly at it and explore, and it turns into an awesome adventure. And just explore a little bit and go back into to your life in the city and take what you learned out there and start making a difference. Like over in Seattle, they have Beacon Food Forest, and these people spend time in the wild, but they go back and grow food in these empty lots and grow fruit trees, and it's just all kinds of things like that I've seen that went on, and it's to explore that freedom. And I think one key symbol or feeling that you get inside you where your freedom is not flowing is boredom. And boredom is two words, bore through the dumb.
Oh, boy.
Move on. Keep moving and go through that boredom and seek that creativity and share that with others. And everybody, has their own practice and explore and share it. And me, I look at the forest, I look at freedom, and I look at fitness. And that leads me to having fun. And I think that's the goal in life. And I want to have fun. I want my community and others to have fun as well. So.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating to find that you have chosen to do what you do, but yet share with people, the realities of this as well, and that it's all very possible.
Oh yeah, it's all possible. It's just like the easiest way I have found and share with other people is just walk out, step out of your shoes, and start walking, and start exploring your habitat. And one of the first things you'll find when you step out of shoes is you have to start paying attention. In shoes, you can just walk anywhere you want to. In a machine, you can just drive and not think. But when you step out of those insulations and stuff and separations, you begin to go paying attention. And then the next step is acceptance. You got to learn to accept that you got stuck in these habits in life, but also accept you got a primal body memory, a genetic coding that is just desiring to fit into the earth. And with those two steps of attention and acceptance, they form into a stride of being aware. And what I found I had to be aware of was shoe salesman. And I was usually my own best shoe salesman.
Watch out for the shoe salesman behind the next tree.
Watch out for them, yeah.
Well, Mick, it's been a real pleasure to have you on the program today. I can imagine that sometimes when people hear this story or they go to read a little bit about it or perhaps watch National Geographic that, Maybe they're not getting the whole story, and it sounds like you've really laid that out for us here on the program today to give people an idea of how nature has responded and cooperated with you as well.
Yeah, they were trying, the NAT team and stuff was focusing on the wild and the things that happened to me in the gated wild, and doing that was the focus on. And the guys that were just so incredible. I mean, it was just amazing enthusiasm and energy on them. Most of them started growing beards and going barefoot. It's just like playtime.
Well, that's good. You're causing people to play.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity to show off my teacher this mountain. It was I just honor it. Yes.
Well, Mick, we certainly feel pleasured here on the program that you took the time to come out of the trees to find somebody who had a phone so that you can talk with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really good. I've enjoyed talking to you.
We enjoyed talking with you. Thanks again, Mick.
Okay.
We want to thank you, the listeners out there. Also, be sure to visit us at Beyond50Radio.com. We'll have a hot link there for you and share more of Mick's story for you as well. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for joining us. This is the Beyond 50 Radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.